And I don't know, maybe should we record this side? You guys tell me, and tell me if you actually watched this far into the video. I would love to hear from you. Tell me if you want to watch this side, which is just a duplicate of the other side, right? Because what we could do now for this video is clean all this up and then we could end the video, or we can take you over to the other side and go through the whole car. I don't know. Let me know. How's it going? My name is Brent from Encore PPF and Tint, and today we are tint. So we're going to be installing a 15% window film on this 2024 Mercedes-Benz C300. We're going to be installing Autobahn product, and all the kit is cut out using Core. Let's go ahead and get moving. All right, so let's go ahead and get our bounce pad on the rear window. That way we're prepped for dry shrinking this window. So the bounce pad just keeps the material from sticking to the glass so that it can float while we're heat shrinking it. So we're just wiping the window down and then going directly over with the bounce pad and applying some of that to the glass. That's not very much. It's pretty thin. Let's go ahead and I'm just gonna wipe this down one more time to make sure I got it good and clean. Then I'm gonna add a little spritz of water on here and we'll get a little bit more bounce pad on there. Okay. Great. That's looking a little bit better. Sometimes it takes a little bit moisture to get enough bounce pad on the window, especially once the bounce pad has been used a few times. And this is just your standard bounce pad. I call it a bounce pad because it's probably the brand Bounce, although we might use Kirkland now. I'm not quite sure, but regardless, this is just a dryer sheet. Okay, let's make sure that this is dry. This is the film side, so not the release liner side. And we're gonna go ahead and transfer that onto the glass. So two ways to do your H pattern. One is that I just mist down these edges with a spray bottle. Two is that I start by wiping the window down with something like this, with the sponge here. So I just put some slip solution in there from the window tinting soap, basically. Just go right down the middle of the glass, go up both sides like that, up and down. Same over here. Now we can go ahead and bring this over. We're just gonna set this bottom corner into place and then kind of watch it go up the edge. Adjust it as needed. And if you get this edge fairly straight, the rest of this should really lay down really straight. It'll take a little bit to get used to do that, but once you get it, this all moves really quickly. Okay, so we'll lift the film up, put a little tension on this side, and then we're gonna push out and make sure that this center is tacked to the glass. Once we get over to here, we'll push the fingers up and down before we go over it with the card here. Otherwise you will eventually run over the material and crease it on the side by trying to push a finger out, because there is water here. It doesn't like to push out real easy sometimes. So with your fingers first, then the card. Let's get to shrinking this window. So first things first, we're gonna need to go ahead and get rid of a lot of this excess water. Because we are dry shrinking, we want that to be dry. Let's go ahead and get our glove on. Oh, knock that off. This came unplugged. There we go. Turn this all the way up. We want all the heats. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and start heat shrinking this. So I'm just kind of pushing this around, make sure we're kind of floating. I must have got a little bit of water somehow right here on the bottom of the glass because it's not really floating down there on the bottom. You can see that it's really staying on into a small finger there, where these other ones we can kind of push them around. And like this one here just kind of breaks up very easily, whereas this doesn't want to break up and move around. It's because it's tacked a little bit there with water, and that's, you know, it is what it is. It would be better if it wasn't that way, but we're not going to let that stop us. If you're new at, you know, with window tinting, that situation does make the shrinking a bit more difficult because you can't shrink the whole finger in a larger area. You've got to really kind of narrow down your shrinking area to where the film is lifted up, if that makes sense, hopefully. Because the whole point of the dry shrinking is just making sure, you know, the main point of dry shrinking is that it gives you a lot of area to shrink the film, because it's kind of, the fingers are kind of floating around. All right, let me see if I can bring a little bit more air down here. There, I've got some air, and I'm gonna bring it down to this little finger thing here, if you can see that, and see what I don't like that on the very edge. So we'll put some heat on that and see if we can get, there, gone. Okay, so all I did was bring down some more air, put it in there, and then shrunk that, and it got rid of that little finger that was, it wasn't even a finger really, more than it was just some little area that really hadn't gotten shrunk real well. And so by bringing that could have caused us a problem once we got on the inside, on the edge. And we definitely don't want that. We want everything to look really nice, flush, and smooth when we're done shrinking. Yeah, I definitely got something going on here. There's also a possibility I didn't use quite enough water with the bounce pad, because I was just trying to get it to dry really quickly, so I didn't have to stand around and wait. So that could have been the situation here too, is maybe it's not water and it's more just that it didn't get enough bounce pad on there, so the material doesn't want to unstick and stay floating. It's basically just continuously sticking to the glass. And that is the whole reason for using the bounce pad, is to keep it from doing that. Okay, so we're shrinking this and then working our way up. And once the fingers start going like this direction, you know that that area is, usually that means it's plenty stretched or shrunk enough. And then you just continue to work your way up towards the top. Now, if you're new to window tinting, it's better to take your time, and I'm kind of going ahead and just shrinking the whole thing all the way down. But if you're new, you'll want to just start at the top, shrink down a couple inches, push that out. Don't continue to push down out. Oh, you know, hang on. All right, don't continue to push all the way out until you shrunk that area. So you only push out the area that you've shrunk. And that's important because you don't want to run all the way down. You're going to potentially crease the material over on itself, and the other problem you're going to have is that you're going to potentially make these areas tack down a little bit, and we really just want that film free floating out there. All right, so you start at the top of the fingers and then work your way down them. There's a little bit of a finger here on the side, so I went ahead and pushed it down till it got to the bottom. Okay, we'll get the rest of this all the way down. Terrific, and then let's go ahead and let's tighten up this bottom edge. Basically, I'm just putting a lot of heat on this, and if I see part of the material start to lift up as far as just a little bit, right here on the edge, then I'll put a little bit more heat on there till I can see that it shrunk down a little bit, and then I'll push it out. Now, one thing you really do want to be careful of is that when you're doing that final process at the end, if the entire piece of film starts to pop up and curl, get away from that as quick as possible, because you will burn that edge. And then that's gonna just make things more difficult, and it might not even be salvageable if you burn an edge like actually in the pattern. We do have this area here on the bottom that we still need to weed, so this isn't part of the pattern that's going to get installed. So if you just burnt that edge, you're going to be like okay, but like let's say you still had some heat shrinking out here and this popped up and you burn that edge, this is never going to lay down now out here, because it's going to be so much tension on there, it's going to keep lifting up, and that's going to make it difficult to heat shrink these other areas with the film continually trying to curl up. All right, so we're just heating this, pushing it down, and then I'm going to go ahead and go over this edge one more time and tighten it up. All right, everything looks great. Nailed it. All right, let's get a little water on the glass here, and then we'll bring this pattern back over. So I'm just going to stick my fingernail into it, make it, help it pop up, and then get my finger underneath it, and then we'll pull this whole piece up. As you can hear there, there's really no kinking or crinkling sounds, which is good, because those little kinks and crinkles will create little marks in the film on the inside that you may have to push out and heat up. Because basically you're kinking the film a little bit, and that creates little, little kinks in the film, and then it obviously doesn't like that. So the more fluid motions you can use, the less you mess with the film, the better. All right, so a couple things we need to do here still. One, let's go ahead and get these seats to lean forward. Oh man, they must. Oh, here, there's a button for it. Oh, that's fancy. And then let's also get our tools and get them in the car. And let's see here, I think I only want, let's see, I'm gonna set these right here, and then we're gonna go ahead and take out this headrest. There we go. Great. Put that in there. Same thing with this other side. All right, it's up in here. And what you need to do is push in on this one side here, where it's got the thing for your thumb to touch, and push up. Once you get it to the top there, you're gonna need to push both sides to get it out. Same with this one. Great. Oops. All right, so the nice thing about this is that, taking these out is that it gets all that out of your way, so that you've got the back window here to work with without the headrest in the way, because I mean there's not much room here anyway, and that eats up like almost all of it, the headrests do. Okay. Now I'm going to be kneeling in here, and so the other thing I want to do is go ahead and get these front seats pulled forward so I'm not hitting these with my shoes. Perfect. See how much more room that is now? All right, so now we'll go ahead. So one other thing to note about this pattern when you're installing it is that you want to be really careful when you're squeegeeing this bottom area out, because normally you're going to be using something like a bulldozer to squeegee this bottom out, because you can't reach it with your hands, and not many tools fit back in there behind the third brake light. So is that you need to come down and squeegee out to the sides. You cannot start at one side and then come all the way across. And the reason is because you're going to bunch up this corner here and destroy this material. And if you damage this at all back in there, you're not going to be able to correct that because it's too difficult to get to. So really these patterns should all go over like this and then just work their way like this would be my preference, but it's what it is, right? So just be really careful of these edges, because if you do happen to accidentally come this way or go straight down right here, there's a possibility you can damage this part. Let's go ahead and reverse roll this. So we're gonna pull this back about 3/4 of the way, wet everything down with the soapy water, lay this back down. When I get over to this side, I'm gonna spray this part down, which I was touching with my finger. Same over here. And when you see me touch that, let's see, okay, so I pull it back the rest of the way, soap it up, put it back down, blow off this edge, and then put this back up. When you saw me reach over and hold the film down, I was only holding it with my fingernail. I wasn't putting my finger into it, and that limits the possibility of getting contamination in there. All right, so now we'll put a mist on the outside here, and that's gonna help the film slide and start this roll. Just curl it into itself and then bring it back and tighten that roll up. And then once you get the roll started like this, you will be able to eventually learn how to just roll this out like this. Now watch, this area needs to be tucked back in. And then we'll go ahead and finish rolling this up. You can also see with my fingers here that I'm pushing the excess forward so that we don't run over it, because once this stuff gets in there, the roll starts to get really fat and gets real loose, and that, you know, it's just easier if it doesn't do that. All right, let's hop in here. I normally will put this right here, kind of tucked in between the center console and the seat. And I'm basically gonna straddle the hump. All right, so what we're gonna do is wet this window down, just give it a good mist. All right, we're gonna take our scrubber and scrub this whole window. If it's a real warm day or the window's pretty hot, you want to add some more water or slip solution to, you don't want it to dry on there, basically, the water, before you squeegee it out. All right, let's grab our squeegee, get our microfiber towel, and then what we're gonna do here is we're gonna start here and go down. That wasn't a very good pass. Let's try that again. Much better. So the first squeegee down looks like that with me holding the like this. The next squeegee I grab like this and I come across. Make sure you're not hitting the headliner, because you will splash contamination out onto the glass from there. Okay, so next squeegee is held like this. And that second pass there, I did go up here into the dot matrix again. And then we're gonna go ahead with good overlapping, work our way across, each time dropping down. And I'm moving my hand kind of back towards the back of this squeegee so that I can tuck it further down in there. All right, and that's as far as I'm able to reach. So now what we're gonna have to do is change the angle of our squeegee. I do need to get a new squeegee. Somebody made fun of me the other day on YouTube for using these squeegees like this. It's funny because it is, I mean, it's like the tool's almost free at some point, right? Because it's so inexpensive and I've used it so many times. This is ridiculous. But it's still doing a good job, so I don't know. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is get the very bottom. So I'm gonna turn the squeegee like this in my hand, and I'm gonna squeegee this out. And you wanna stay off the rear deck. Don't wanna really be bumping into the rear deck that much, because that can also flick contamination up into onto the window. Now, let's get our bulldozer. And then let's go ahead and squeegee across with this. on the very bottom. So now we're basically all the way down. And then we're gonna do one more pass down here and try to get that the rest of the way down. Okay. Now, just for insurance on this bottom, we're gonna go, or even the side here, we're gonna go ahead and kind of mist that out that direction and down. And then we're gonna do the same thing across the bottom here. Something like that, looks really good. Okay, and then let's go ahead and put a mist on this now. All right, let's get our film here that's rolled up. We're gonna take the release liner, roll it around to the back of the roll, or continue to roll it around the roll, and let the adhesive side be exposed now. And we're going to put this up here, start to roll this out a bit. We're letting that bottom just lay on the rear deck, and then we'll get that into, oops, that doesn't normally happen. Okay, well then. All right, so now that we're past the third brake light area, you see it's right there basically. I'm gonna go ahead and scoot this over into place over there, and then right here you can see we've got a long ways to go down, and so I'm gonna just start tucking that down in. Okay, then let's make sure we're lined up good over here. Something like that looks really good. Come up just a little bit more. Got the material is bunching up a little bit right there. So let's flatten that back out. Okay, so now that I'm getting over here, I'm gonna go ahead and hold the film this way and put the excess in the middle so that we can roll this all the way out onto the glass. And then we want to pull the release liner back from there. You want to be really careful that bottom edge doesn't flip over and run onto the rear deck, that it doesn't come off basically with the release liner. Okay, once we have the liner away, we're going to push the film this way into place and get rid of all that excess that was out in the middle. And then we can push the rest of this up. Now let's get rid of our release liner. And then let's go ahead and make sure that this is all positioned correctly. Okay. So just making sure it's lined up correctly from left to right. And then also making sure we've got good coverage all the way down. And then we want to go ahead and get this top laid down into place. Now on this vehicle here, because you cannot see that bottom down there, it's best to hop out and take a look, or if you have somebody else working in the shop that's mobile right now, you can have them take a peek. It's important that we're all the way down, or you're gonna be able to see that. Here, I'm kicking the camera. Okay, there we go. All right, so we are all the way down. That looks really good. Let's go ahead and squeegee this out. You will be able to notice that edge if it's not all the way down. On the outside, you'll see it. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our Blue Max, which technically is not a Blue Max right now. It's a red line. And we're gonna go ahead and push all this water and air out, and we're going over, I don't know, I'd say about 6 inches to a foot. You don't want to leave any air pockets behind if you're noticing the window is a little bit tacky, which I am noticing right now. So you want to make sure and get all the air pockets out on the first pass, because we are going to do 2 passes. So just make sure you get, you know, everything out, especially the air pockets. All right, then let's do this side. Now, sometimes I will just go all the way straight across, but not when it's feeling a little tacky. When the material starts getting a little, the adhesive is a bit more tacky, maybe I don't have enough slip or soap in my slip solution, then I'm going to go ahead and not do full passes on the first time through, because it's too easy to crease the material over if you're working that quickly and pushing everything out at one time and not taking it in basically in chunks. Like this whole section goes over, then here, and then out. Now at the bottom here, we're going to use this tool to start with. And remember, we can't go straight down here or go this way in that area. So we're starting in the middle and going over to the side. And then you can also do some work with it straight down. Now the thing that's important if you're going straight down with it is that when you bring it back up, you have to lift the tool up and get this edge off the glass, because if you come out this way with pressure on the glass, you're going to bunch the film up on the bottom. Okay, we've got that pushed out. Now let's get all the way down here. Okay, now we'll go for our second pass, and on this pass you want to use as much pressure as you can muster. We want to get everything out, and I'm basically going over everything, and I'm using about half of the Blue Max is on going over new stuff, and then the other half is re-squeegeeing out areas that have already been squeegeed out. And I'm putting a ton of pressure on there. This is going to make you very good at arm wrestling. You'll beat plenty of people that are bigger than you. and everybody will wonder what the hell's going on. And it's just because you work out with your arm like every day, all day, right? At work. Or both your arms. And so I beat some people with arm wrestling that I had no business beating, and people were surprised by it because my arms are so small, but it's just from the specific workout that we get installing window film. Okay, so we're squeegeeing all this out, basically going across like this, and then each time I'm going down like maybe another inch or so till we're all the way down to the bottom there. Okay, now I'm going to take this tool here and I can get to this bottom, so I'm going to hit that again with this one, because this one's going to put, the side swiper is going to put a lot more pressure on that edge. And then I'm going to come up the side here and up around the top. This is just going to help get a lot of water out of that edge. Okay, same thing over here, like so. Come up this side. It'll take a little while to get used to using this tool on here, because it is fairly easy to bunch the material up and create a finger or crease the material on the edge. Can happen as well, but you just really want to keep the squeegee at an angle like this when you're coming up the sides, less like this. More possibility of creating a finger and creasing it over like that. Great. Now let's go ahead and wipe all this down. Start by wiping down the interior here. Okay, and then we'll wipe down the film. So I'm just working my way up from the bottom, just being fairly gentle with the towel, because we don't want to push too hard, because we don't want to peel up an edge. Okay, I'll grab my tools, which you can just leave in the car if you're new at window tinting, because chances are you're not done yet, and chances are I'm done. Shouldn't be much out here to clean up, if anything at all. So, all right, so let's take a look. So we're looking really good down here. Everything is squeegeed out really well. So this is the harder area to get to, especially back in here, because we're just using the bulldozer. I'm going to go over this one more time. There is no, we look good. Okay. I do have a little thing right here, if you can see that. I basically just didn't get good enough pressure there, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and take this tool here with the I don't know what this stuff is called on it. Teflon, I think they call it. And we'll push this out. So it'll get a little bit more focus pressure in that area, because that was basically just a little bit of leftover moisture. Okay, all my edges are looking really good and down. I don't see any contamination or hair, things that aren't going to be passable. If I do see anything, it's incredibly minor. Okay, great. So we know we're gonna be able to live with that window or work with it. I don't know how you want to say it. It came out really good. I downplay it like it didn't come out that great, but it came out amazing, and we're definitely gonna be able to let this go. Okay, so when I'm cleaning this off, what I see here is an air pocket. We need to get that out right away. So I'm gonna take this tool here, find my air pocket, which is right here, and we're gonna go ahead and squeegee that to a defroster line. Okay, I'm having to use my fingernail to get a little bit more, a sharper pressure on it. Okay, great. And then we'll just take all this out to the side, just in case we brought over some extra water or anything or air onto this defroster line. We know we brought a little bit over from that mark or from that air pocket. All right, great. Let's take a look back out here again. Finish wiping this down. So what I want to check for now is to make sure that I got that air pocket and that I pushed it all the way out. Now, if you can see that little bit of white right there, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that or not. It's right there above my finger. That is from pushing that air pocket out. That's going to dry clear though, so don't worry about that. All right, and then let's wipe this side down. Okay, and then I've got a tiny thing right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this tool again and push this out. Okay, great. That looks fantastic. It's just like a little air pocket slash water pocket left right on one of the defroster lines. Okay, great. That looks fantastic. Let's move on. All right, so today I'm opting to sit in my stool instead of raising the lift, even though I put the car on the lift. It's pretty ridiculous. It's just for fun, really, because I can, and because sometimes it's nice to stand and work. A lift is not for window tinting. We use that for paint protection film, and then because I have it, I do some window tinting with it on the side doors so I can stand and work. But today, I want to sit. So what I did here is went ahead and misted that down, and then we're gonna go ahead and throw a scrubby pad on this and knock off any dirt that could be, accumulated on the glass there. And then we're gonna start up here, and I'm gonna come across and down. Then I'm gonna take my squeegee and bring it over this way, and we're gonna take all the rest of this to the side. And I'm going to flip my squeegee over so that the pointed part is facing down. And then now we've got a nice clean window there. Then we're just going to put a mist on this, a very light mist. Let's go ahead and grab our pattern here. And it's this top one. So you want to put a mist on the glass. I always put a mist on the glass before I start pulling the liner off, so that if there's anything because we're going to get static when we pull this off, this release liner. So we want to go ahead and get a mist on here so that there's any little pieces of lint or hair that are going to want to lift up when we start to pull this off and stick to the static, then that stuff is tacked down now, right? So, okay, so if I start to pull this back and I can't get that material to stay there, then I take just the tip of my fingernail, I'll push it on there and hold it while I pull this down. All right, so we'll just get a mist on there because again, there might be some stuff out here and we don't want to wet it and bring it down into our pattern. Just grabbing that with the tip of my fingernail. And then I'm going to grab over here with my fingernail. We're going to set the top in place while holding the bottom out so that it doesn't go down and land on the door panel. And then we'll tuck this in like this. See, we're like up as high as we can go. We're kind of bumping there on the bottom. So there is a piece of rubber here that we can pull back and let that tuck in. And then I'll drop the pattern down just a little bit so we're not bumping into things on the top edge. Double check, make sure that you have good coverage everywhere and you don't have any light gaps. Then I'm going to mount the film right here with my thumb while I'm also holding on to this piece of plastic and basically gripping the panel, the whole door right here, so that my hand can't move. And then I'm holding the film in place so that it can't move, and I'm putting pressure on the film. So this makes sure that my hand can't move, and then my thumb on the film makes sure the film can't move. And then if the film does move, I'll be able to feel that it moves with my thumb. Now what we're going to be doing here first is going over the lettering. Now the lettering, the film sticks really quickly to. So the advantage to that is that that really holds it in place now, so that I don't have to worry or put so much pressure with my thumb now. So we're giving this just a push out, our first push out, which is just, you know, it's fairly light pressure, getting everything out. And then now we'll go back with a second pass. Depending on how, you know, tacky your squeegee is, you might have to put on some more slip onto the film so that you can glide real easily on it. Great. All right, nailed it. Gotta love those windows, huh? Let's take a look outside. Make sure that we don't, you know, that we got all the water out, there's no air pockets, that we got all of the, there's not a bunch of dirt, you know, basically this is a window we know that we can live, that we're going to be using and shipping. So otherwise, if there's something in it that we can't recover from, we'd want to pull it off now, and that way it doesn't start to stick, and leave adhesive when we pull it off. All right, that looks fantastic. So we'll move on to the next window. Okay, so we're gonna need our gasket wizard. And what do you guys think? You wanna cover the panel today? Let's do it. So go ahead and put this in place here. All right. Let's get our gasket wizard. Oh, wrong drawer. Do this all the time. You'd think after all these years I'd figure that out, but I haven't. Okay, so now I put this felt on here so that it's I can hold on to it and this thing's not so slippery. And then we're gonna put this part down in. I think when you buy them, they're designed for some hooks to go on here, bungee cords, and pull down for you. And you're supposed to hook the bungee cords on the bottom somewhere. I don't like that. I don't want those things flipping up or scratching anything. That's not happening. So I immediately threw those in the trash. And then I like this short side down when I can use it that way. If we get a real tall panel where the panel comes up like this, then I will go grab a different one and put this side down. That's a lot of information for a window where we're not doing that stuff. So I stick my finger in here. I'm gonna pull back to give me some extra space. And then we're gonna just tuck this in. So you see I got that front end first in, and then I just kept bringing it this way and pushing down here until the whole thing popped in. Sometimes those can be a little bit of a bear to get in when the rubbers are real tight. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a mist on this. You do have to know with this vehicle that there is felt on the sides here. Fortunately, the felt is so new that we're not gonna have a ton of the felt popping off, but you do need to know and be aware that it's there, because when you flip the film around, when you're installing it, and if you get any of it to touch that felt, it's going to grab felt and put it in the underneath the film. The other thing is that we're going to take some extra steps to make sure that we get as much of that felt out as possible, and at the very end we spray this down to make sure that we spray all of the felt down to give us the least possibility of having any of that on the glass. And I'll go over all that with you as we move along here. So right now I'm going to go ahead and take this tool, put it in a towel, and we're going to run down back in here and just basically get the window good and clean way back in there, and grab any dirt where we're not going to be able to get a squeegee back in there. And that just helps eliminate some of the contamination on the edges. Okay, so go ahead and put another mist on this, and then we're going to roll this window down a little bit here. Of course, car turned the windows off. And I've got the camera in front of the front door. All right, so when I start the car, or not start it, but when I put it into accessory mode, I always make sure the radio's not on and that the air conditioning's not on, because it's going to be blowing air, which it is right now. So we want to turn that off. It blows air. That's going to do two things. One, that's going to... There we go. So this was radio, and then that one. Well, I thought it was. What are we doing here? Okay, so air conditioning, I want you off. What does this turn off then? System off. How's that work? Does that work good? Oh, air conditioner still on. Well, you know, why don't they have just a simple power button? They have a power button there and a power button there, and neither one of them operate this control. So what do we just go here till it turns off? Yep, okay. But what we want to do is make sure we don't kill the battery, so we want as little things on as possible. Also, we'd make sure we turn the headlights off if they were on. Okay, so let's go ahead, roll this down, wet this top edge down, and we still need to scrubby pad this top edge. So there we go. Okay, now we're gonna roll this back up, making sure that we can still get to that edge, and we don't want to come over too far because this is a felt here and we don't want it all over the glass. We want to be able to clean that edge really well and tuck the film in. So we just want it high, as high as we can get it without getting back too far where we can't reach it. All right, so we missed that down again, and now we're going to go ahead and squeegee this. So we're going to go hold the squeegee like this, go down on the first pass, second pass across the top, third pass flipped over, and across the top again. Every time the squeegee comes off the glass, it gets wiped off, and then we will take this side down once we've worked our way all the way across the glass, like that. Let's go ahead and clean this edge. You can see the dirt we got there. And then let's go ahead and spray this down now. Across the bottom, and then down this side, and then a mist across the rest of the window. Let's get our pattern. So I'm going to put that mist on there again. Pull down about 3/4 of the way. All right, so I'm going to put my hand behind here. I'm going to grab this with my fingernail. And then right here, I'm going to grab on the liner. Okay. Get this part in first. Now you see how we're angled out this way at the bottom? That's going to allow us to be able to tuck this in a little bit better and then slide it in like that. Then over here, we're going to do the same thing. Then we're going to push this in. And what we want is to get a nice, we don't want that sharp point right there, if you can see that. What we want is something like that, where the point goes all the way over and just back in there. Now let's straighten this out, basically, because there was a finger here because we had the film tilted like this. So we'll straighten that out, and then let's get this film up and into place. Okay, mist that down. Now we'll go ahead and squeegee this out with our Blue Max. So again, I've got the film mounted over here with my thumb, so it's not moving around on me. Okay, then just continuously checking that top edge to make sure that when you're squeegeeing, you're not moving it around, and if you are, you need to reposition. Okay, so we'll go till we're about 1 inch to the edge on both sides. This one can go over just a tad bit more. And so what's happening in there right now is that this water is running down and getting back into the film right here. If we went ahead and just pushed all that over, it's going to go over to the side, flush any dirt out, and bring it out into the film right there and right there. And then we're going to have dirt. And so we want as little of that going all the way over and running down as possible. So we only go over to that last inch or so, and then we're going to put this card in here and we're going to take the rest of this up. Once again, we're taking this water up because we don't want it on the side there and running down. Okay, so I go usually over that about 3 or 4 times. Sometimes I'll run over this top edge here just to make sure everything is stuck down really good. And then we'll go ahead and roll this up. I'm going to put a little bit of pressure out with my thumb, like that. And then what happened there was this liner was sticking to the cover here, and so it started pulling the film off a little bit. That's going to be fine, not a big deal. But now what we need to do is spray down everything here to make, because there's that bottom edge that we weren't able to clean because the window was rolled down. We need to spray all that dirt down. Okay, get the liner off. We'll put a mist onto the tint. Now here's how you get this on with minimal kinks and minimal working around on the film. So we put a little extra material there so we can lift the material up and get it into place on the bottom, and then we want this angle here. And then we're going to take this tool, come all the way over to the side, and with the material nice and flat there, we're going to tuck it in like that. See, and then that nicely helps this stuff just go over and start to slide in. And then as we bring this across, we're directing the film down in there, and then we're going to come to this side, get this thing all the way over, come to this side, pull the film over, get that nice flat edge there again, and then we'll tuck that in. Great. Bring this back out kind of to the middle, grab this red card, and we'll go ahead and push out all of this extra air and water. Now, when it doesn't want to go down and stay down real well, that might be I overshrunk that a little bit on my pre-shrink. I'm going to go ahead and push this down, and then I'm going to hold my finger out here in the middle. I'm going to pull back on this so I can get my finger down in there, and then we're going to take this stuff over, and we're going to go down below the rubber and push this stuff over like this. And most of the time you're going to need to keep your finger in there if it continues to pop up like this. Okay, and then let's take all of this direction here. And this part down. I'll be right back. I have to get a battery. Okay, so now we've misted this. Let's go ahead and squeegee all of this down. So when I'm using a Blue Max like this, when it's not in a handle like this, this is nice because you can use any of these edges you want. And it contours really well to the glass if there's any curve in it. Because like right here, you've got to get some contour in it to get it to touch the glass like that. And that's important on the top. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to use 2 thumbs on there. I'm basically pinching the squeegee and putting a lot of pressure on it and squeegeeing down. So we're getting everything out. And we're putting good pressure because this is only going to be, we're only going to do 1 pass with this. And I'm overlapping a whole lot. All right, now that we've got all that pushed down, we want to start up as high as we can with this tool. Push it all the way out so you can feel it riding the way back in there. You can feel it hitting. And I'm normally going to push down on this like 3 or 4 times, all the way down and out. And then we're going to go ahead and move this over, and then we'll push this one down. down all the way past the bottom and over. And then we'll go ahead and pull this tool out. But before you did that, actually, you'd want to leave that in. You want to check the outside. I know that chances are I don't have any issues that I'm going to need that for because of all the years of practice. I had a little air pocket that was right there. So I've got a little kink here. If you can see that, I'm sure you can. I'm hoping you can. So let me wipe this down, get this dirt out of the way so we can get a good view on this. So basically what we're going to do now is check this window for contamination or problems that are going to make it that we can't move forward with this install. That is going to be no problem, if you can see that. Just a tiny bit of heat or let that sit for a little bit and push it out. That's going to go right away. Won't be an issue at all. And I mean, it won't look like it was ever there by the time we're done with it. Oh, my voice is cracking a lot today. Okay, and then I'm just looking around for contamination and things. I've got a tiny little line there. Other than that, we're looking really good. So I'm happy with that. Now we could go ahead and pull out this tool here because we know that we're basically done with this window. And then we're gonna wipe this window down. Now, you know, this Blue Max, this is not like, I don't think it's a real Blue Max. I think it's like one that's made actually in China, but they just fake the whole thing because these leave streaks going up and down, and true Blue Maxes didn't used to do that. So I'm not quite sure where we got these ones, but when they start leaving streaks when they're brand new like this, they're useless because then you have to go and wipe all this stuff off, which is a fairly solid headache. Have you guys noticed that with the tools? It's like they just take any tool they want, almost, and remanufacture it and just make it out of crappier materials, and then they're just all over the market, flooded with the correct name on it, so you think you're buying what you think you're buying, and it's not. You're buying a fake. And leaving those streaks on the glass, that thing's a piece of garbage. It's not worth anything. All right, let's go ahead and get this off. Then we'll dry this panel off here. Okay, great, that one's done. And we're gonna let this all sit and then clean that edge up after we get all the windows installed. So the only reason I'm moving this out right now is for the video, so you can see the whole piece of glass. Let's go ahead and get this in place. This just keeps the rest of the panel dry. Okay, here we go. I mean, you could put it closer if you want, if you were so inclined to do so. I don't know, it always just ends up holding moisture in that edge anyway. So you can dry this thing off and then not start with moisture. This adhesion strip on here, you can clean it with straight rubbing alcohol, and it cleans it and rejuvenates its tackiness. The thing is, I don't want to get, I can't have it too close there because as it is, this thing is sticking way out into the area that we need to apply the film. And I don't need less room to tuck things in. So having this further up here is just going to be more in the way. So that's as good as it's going to get with this tool. I use these on and off. People complain sometimes on the internet if you don't use them, but seriously, it's fine to not use them as far as I'm concerned. Huh? All right, so let's actually look for another Blue Max in here. So like, I know this is gonna be an old one, so that one I'm sure would work really well and not leave streaks, because otherwise I would have thrown it away already. Now these ones, it's like, I don't know which ones we bought together, so I don't know which are which, because they basically, I mean, other than the color changed a little bit, they look the same as far as like the lettering on them and stuff. So we'll try another one here. And then if that doesn't work, we're just going to a red line extractor because I know that these are not going to leave marks. But the Blue Max was always quite a bit less expensive than the red line extractor. That's why, and they did a great job, and they were around way before Fusion tools. Alrighty then, let's get on this window here. I'm gonna go ahead and just set the red line extractor over there. If you buy these from the manufacturer, so if you buy them from your window film manufacturer, chances are they're buying them directly from the name brand source. Some of these may have been purchased on Amazon to try them out, to see if they were good or not. It's seeming they're not. All right, let's go ahead and get a mist on here. And first things first, let's get rid of these stickers. So we take a blade, get underneath there, and then let's pull that off. And then I'm going to take this and fold it over onto itself, adhesive side, so it does not stick to the ground. Otherwise you're going to be coming through with a scraper, you know, like getting all these stickers off the ground later, you know, down the road after a few months of tinting windows. Stickers everywhere. Okay, then let's go ahead and scrape this. And what I'm normally going to do is kind of try to get all this adhesive to stay on here, and then I'll just flick it off. Okay, and that's just because if you smash it down, if you just squeeze or razor blade it down and it gets caught onto the felt down there, the window scraper, it's a possibility that when you roll the window up when you go to do the install, that it can come off of there and stay on the glass and then get underneath the tint, and we certainly don't want that. All right, so mist everything down. I'm gonna go ahead and roll this window down a little bit here, mist it, and then roll it back up. Let's go ahead and scrubby pad all of this. And that water up at the top is just to help it start breaking loose if there's any contamination there. All right, we've got that scrubbed. So let's roll it down. We're looking back in here because this is the area that's going to get covered first by the felts. And we want to make sure that we're able to get to that corner really well. Because when those corners get dry, when you're trying to install the film and you have a dry corner, it gets really tacky and doesn't want to slide back in there. We also want to make sure that we can reach it with the squeegee so that we can clean it. And the thing that you need to keep in mind with this is that the further up the further down that the window is, let's start with that. The further down that the window is, the less of the liner you want to remove. Because if you remove too much, the film is going to want to be bumping on here on the adhesive side. So you want that liner to be stuck further up on the film. And we'll go over that as we go to weed that over there, or not weed it, but remove the release liner. All right, so let's get way back in here. Okay, so you can see we're picking up some felts and things like that. That's breaking those loose and getting them out of there. See how far we can get this over here. All right, that is a real mess over there. So the film is going to get crinkled up over there. There's like no way around that unless you take all this stuff off, which I don't want to do. Because you have to take I think you have to take the door panel off too. I've tried to just pull them out and it doesn't really come out. I'm pretty sure the door panel needs to come off, and I don't want to do that either. I'm not a fan of removing door panels. I did that for many years on every car, and then I just completely got away from that because it's just very time consuming. All right, so we've got the window misted down. We're gonna go ahead and swipe down on this side. So I'm holding it like this and went down that side, and then we're gonna go across the top like this and flip the squeegee over and work our way down this window. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and stuff the squeegee way back in there and squeegee that down. And then we want to blow that out downward across the bottom, Down this side, a good mist on there. Let's get our pattern. Let's get a mist on here. Pull this back. Okay, so we don't want to come down too far. Otherwise, this part is going to bump into the door panel. We don't want that, because then we're going to pick up contamination. Okay, so we've got that misted down now. I'm going to grab right here. I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to come up higher here, and I'm going to grab this with, well, it's going to be a tiny bit of my fingertip on the very edge. Wasn't able to get it quick enough with my fingernail. But when you're tinting windows all day, your fingers are pretty clean. So, all right, so we're on the glass, we're nice and flat, and we're gonna push this in like that. We wanna get it over pretty much as far as we can. Now, let's get this other side in. So what I'm gonna do is bring a lot of extra material out here into the middle so that I can get this part down. And I'm actually going to do something I said wasn't a good idea here, because you can. So basically this is folded over right where the release liner is. So this piece of film, the back of it here, is going to go in and hit that felt, but it's not that big a deal because we do have the liner on there still. So then we're going to tuck this in and be careful out here, because you want this to come back apart without making a lot of kinking noises, because you don't want little kinks in the film. You're gonna have to heat those up and push those out. All right, so there we go. Okay, when you come down a little, so right there looks really good. If you're new to tinting windows, you want to go ahead and check the outside to make sure you have coverage from left to right and you're not leaving any gaps. Well, let's just do it, huh? Okay, we're past the edge, and we're past the edge. And even on this edge, because it's so difficult to get back there, I would live with a tiny gap there, although not the best. All right, so let's get our Blue Max, or potentially fake Blue Max, and mount the film there. And then we'll go ahead and squeegee this out. So we're taking out, started with just the first inch and a half, and then just working our way down from there. Now over here, because it's kind of hard to get this whole Blue Max in here, I'm just going to turn it onto its side like this, and we're going to continue to slide this down. This is also a really nice, this is a great reason not to have it in a holder as well, so that you can use the side of it like that. And then over here, we're going to go ahead and take this way. Okay, and then I'm just gonna try and go over this a little bit more with a little bit more pressure and make sure that we've got all the water out of here. Now I do have just a tiny bit of soapy water still on the glass there, so that is allowing me to glide very easily across the film. These things will get pretty sticky, and you want to make sure that you've got plenty of slip on there so it doesn't stick. Otherwise you're gonna break the film loose and move it and things like that. All right, let's go ahead and get a new edge on this tool. I usually run this through twice. All right, so this side we'll go take this up way back in there, and I'm twisting. I go in and I twist like this to get as much pressure on that edge as possible. Now let's also do this side here. And we're not going to be able to get it as well as the other side, because we still need to be really careful of this film that's kind of flapping around right here. But once we get all this on, we will be able to get over here better and get that squeegeed out. I mean, it's pretty good, but we will do another pass over there. Okay, now that we've got this top squeegeed out, we're going to go ahead and roll this window up. So I am going to push outwards a little bit and upwards like that. And that's basically just to make sure that top edge doesn't catch on the window scraper up there and push the film down, or catch that edge and roll it down or anything. It just helps the window go up easier. And then let's go ahead and blow all of this down because this was down below the rubber and didn't get squeegeed. Great, and now let's get our release liner off of here. And then let's see, oh, kind of, okay, so this is always interesting over here, every time. So this is gonna kind of come out a little bit, and we're just gonna work with what we're gonna do what we can there. Okay, so let's go ahead and mist this now. Great, so that looks really good. Let's get this tool all the way over like that. And then we need to get this film on the glass. Like, I just keep pushing it in there, rolling it up and up. That's why you want to make sure and wet it down before you start doing all that, because adhesive side to adhesive side can get real sticky. Okay, and now I'm taking this, I'm pulling out here. So I'm going to pull this so I lift up. So one thing to know about these as well is that if you just pull back, sometimes you're going to hit the panel before you get the full flex out of the window scrape. So if you lift up on this, and that's because of this 45 edge right here. So what I'm going to do is lift it up a little bit and pull back, and that's going to give us maximum pull this direction and maximum space in there. And then I'm going to push down here. And let's get this more. Let's see if that'll work. It's kind of doing the same thing. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and start tucking this in like that. And then we're going to bring this across. Let's get this side out and angled like this. Okay. All right, great. Now let's get rid of this big old air pocket, which two hands works best normally. Okay, this bottom isn't quite down yet. Okay, there we go. And then we'll go ahead and push all that air out. Get all that tucked back in. Great. Put a mist on it. We'll get this tool and we'll go ahead and push all this down. Way back in there, getting that edge a little bit, not putting a ton of pressure with this tool because it can scratch it when this stuff starts to go bad. The plastic shows and can scratch the film. I mean, it's not very common, but from time to time it does happen. So I just always make sure to be fairly gentle with this tool where I can be. Okay, so now let's go ahead and push this all the way down. And let's get rid of the rest of this air. We just have quite a bit of air trapped in here. I'm trying to get rid of that. Slowly getting that out. Great. So I know that is a huge pain in the rear end, right? But I prefer that difficulty of installing the film versus taking the door panels off. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're gonna squeegee all this stuff down now with our Blue Max. Got a little finger coming out there from the side. That's probably because it kinked up a little bit over there, way back in there. Because these felts, rubbers on the side do come, they protrude way out. And so the film went way back in there past those. All right, so we've got this area all squeegeed out. Now we need to get the very edges. So way back in there, come on down. Let's get this tool over here. Make sure when you're moving this back and forth that you pull out on it, because this edge will dig into the window film from time to time and you will tear the film and you're starting over. Okay, so down all the way down. Come across. Great. Now let's get this all the way over here. Okay, hold this back. And then I'm going to start way up here, because chances are most of this window broke loose even at the top while we were trying to get this to tuck in. Okay, then down. And I think I've gotten most of that, although it's kind of hard to get with this card. We're going to have to jump onto this one here and put more pressure with this one, which is something I said not really to do, but in this circumstance, it's our only option really to get way back in there. Great. Okay, so you should leave that in. I did that again, pulled it out. You should leave that in because things may not look as good as you want them to look, and you may need to go back over things. But I'm pretty certain that I got the pressure on there I needed. So here's our one kink there. And then over here, it actually looks better than the other side. Oh goodness. So there's a couple little dots I'm seeing. And there, well actually we do have, oh, I dropped that, okay. Okay, so let's take a look at this now. We do have a thing there and a thing there, and then a couple little dots out here, that's not gonna be a problem. I also have a line right here. That's not gonna be a problem either. So we're gonna be able to clean all that up. I know some people are gonna hate this install probably. But you know what? It gets the job done and it comes out amazing. So it really, I'm not worried about this at all. The customer is going to be extremely happy with the install, and these little tiny defects that we put in here because we didn't take any of the stuff apart are totally correctable without leaving anything visibly there. All right, so you let that dry out a little bit, and then you can run over it with your card. Some of that's already gone down. Pop back up. Okay. So I do have a little line right here. I'm going to go ahead and run across that with the tip of this tool. Actually, I'm going to hit a couple of these while I'm in here. Just a couple other little marks where the film kinked up just a tiny bit. Okay, I don't know if that's going to show up, but that line is completely gone. And then all these little marks, I'm just touching them up and pushing them out. Great. There's a tiny dot right here. Just putting a lot of pressure on it with the corner of this tool. They're not a lot. You just have to, you have to learn the pressure amount to put, and that'll take a little bit of time. You don't want to put too much pressure because you can bunch the material up. And you want to be really careful if you're pushing this stuff out with this tool and you're going out over the edge of the window film, and you want to basically, let's say this is the window film and you're going out over the edge of the film. You're pushing stuff out, the glass is right here, you're pushing stuff out, you go past the edge, you need to turn and pull this tool out this way, because if you catch this edge when you're coming back in, you're going to crinkle that edge up and then just give yourself more work to heat up and push down. Sometimes it's not even correctable at that point. Most of the time it is, but it's a whole, it's quite a bit more work. Okay, and then we've got all the water out down there, which looks great. Now there's some, these minor things on the very edge. I'm gonna let those sit and cure a little bit. Let's get back to this window here and fix that. And then we'll get back to this one and fix it. Okay, but before we do that, let's go ahead and get this off of the panel here. And then let's double check all this and wipe all this off. So we're just drying everything down. Make sure that we don't get any streaks on the panel or anything. And then we will wipe the window film down. Okay, great. Now on these panels here, if the people had gloss on here, and when this completely dries, you have streaks coming down the panel still, you'll need to reapply some type of, Armor All type stuff. We have some tire shine stuff that we put on a sponge, and we just wipe just a little bit of it and wipe it on there, and it puts the shine back on so that you don't have the streaks. You don't want to send streaks home to the customer. It looks bad, and they're certainly going to see them. They're going to complain about that. Even if they don't complain to you, they will complain to somebody else. Okay. I'm gonna take all this stuff over to the other side real quick. And I don't know, maybe should we record this side? You guys tell me, and tell me if you actually watched this far into the video. I would love to hear from you. Tell me if you want to watch this side, which is just a duplicate of the other side, right? All right, so we've got all our stuff in here. We'll go take care of the other side, because I think well, you guys tell me what you want to see. Do you want to see this other side, or is that too redundant and we can just make a shorter video that has coverage of installing the tint? Because what we could do now for this video is clean all this up and then we could end the video, or we can take you over to the other side and go through the whole car. I don't know. Let me know. All right, so let's touch these things up now. So for these kind of kinks right here, we're going to need a little bit of heat. It's really going to help those to go down and stay stuck down. I'm going to try and get a close-up here of this, which is going to be difficult for us to work in here because this is going to be directly in the way of where I would normally stand to push these type of things out. Cancel tracking. All right, well, let's see how it... Huh?
Your sunglasses are in there.
Okay, thank you. All right, so there's that little imperfection there. We're gonna go ahead and work with that. Thank you. Bye. Okay, this is gonna be a little awkward because we're kind of gonna be in each other's way a little bit. All right, I can't really see what I'm doing so well. I just pushed that out with this regular tool here, went over it a couple times, and because we let that sit for so long while we worked on the other windows, not so long, we did one more window. That pushed out really nicely, and there's just a tiny bit left to heat up and push out. So you can put heat or not put heat. I think this one I'm gonna go ahead and throw some heat on there, because sometimes these things go down easier with a little bit of heat. Just be really careful you don't burn the rubber or melt that piece of plastic over there. Okay, that's good and warm. Another little line up here I'm gonna heat up right now since we have the heat gun out. Okay, and then a tiny little dot there. Okay. Let's turn this off, put this away, and let's get this finger or this little imperfection pushed out. All right, so for this, I'm gonna go ahead and continue using this bone stick. And let's see, I'm gonna come over here and reach in. Actually, this is pretty much my normal position, which is good. We can both fit in here. Okay, so I'm going over these little dots. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take care of this little line. So I'm just going with the line, kind of back and forth over it. I'm going across the little tiny dots out closer to the edge, and everything is pushed down now. So beautiful. This other little thing is on the outside. I don't know what exactly that is, but it's not coming off. But it's not underneath the film. I can show you that by going over it, but I can see the depth. I mean, when you get good at window tinting, you can tell what's between the tint and the glass and what's on the glass and things like that. Or maybe it's on the inside, because you can see that depth through the glass. Okay, great. That all looks really good. Now let's go on up here. See if you guys can see this little imperfection. Doesn't really look like it, but I did put a little heat on it. It's a tiny little line. So boom, that pushed right out. And once you have heat in there, you can put less pressure with it's important that you put less pressure with this tool on the film. Great. We pushed those two little guys out. All right, and then I did have one little dot right here that I put a little bit of heat on. It's actually right there. Go ahead and go over that. So because you've got that heated up and that makes the adhesive warmed up, then less pressure with this tool here. Otherwise, you can push, you do what I call a glue push, which obviously adds a name, which means it happens. And you push the glue and then that's pretty much ruined. You can kind of try and correct it a little bit and leave it if you want to, but it's messed up for sure. So if you could hide it in a corner, then maybe you're okay. But if it's out in the middle or somewhere, I mean, it's very noticeable. It's fairly noticeable. Okay, and this little wing here, it's looking great. There is the tiniest little speck right here, which is nothing. I push that out. Okay, let's go over this one more time here. So when you close the door, it helps because it makes the back really dark, and that makes it even easier to see the things that are just a tiny bit silver. And we want to try and run over each one of those tiny little things. There's a little pocket of air down here at the bottom. Let me get a different tool on that. It's in the very corner there. Okay, let's get way back in there. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and okay, and I wanted to go out that way too on that edge. I want to make sure I got that corner out really good. And sometimes it's hard to get this tool when you're going down to get below the rubber really well. So when you get underneath the rubber and go back this way, we got some good pressure back in there. Great. Okay, we're good. Okay, you can see that one little imperfection right there. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. So it sat for a few minutes. Let's see what we can do by, I'm gonna take the tool and go this way with it, with plenty of pressure on the glass. Look how curved I have this thing. I mean, just really twisting it in there and going out over that. Okay, it could use heat, that makes sense. Those kinks like that, they really like some heat. You really did kind of damage the material right there. All right, so let's go ahead and heat this up. Sometimes I'll put my fingers on the inside, and as soon as I start feeling any heat, then I quit heating that area. When I can feel it on the inside, if the heat is already transferring through, it probably means there's plenty of heat. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put some heat up here in the front. Let me see if I can get a good angle on this so that you can see what I'm doing. Because that other camera zoomed in on that imperfection there. Okay. So I'm just heating up this whole front edge. I've got some fingers on the inside now, just like this. Waiting for a little bit of heat. I'm getting a little bit of heat. I'm gonna keep going. Keep the heat gun moving. You don't wanna burn the rubber or the plastic. And if you do, let's say you heat it up a little bit too much. Well, as long as you're moving, chances are it's not gonna be that bad. You need to keep moving. So keep the heat gun moving, because when you focus it in on a little spot, you know, and you're running at 800 degrees, you're gonna singe that thing and destroy it. It's so easy to do. Okay, so we've got plenty of heat in there. I can really feel it coming through the glass now on my finger. We can get rid of the heat gun. So I'm gonna run over it with the white card, the Teflon card right there. It looks really good. Let's make sure I'm not getting in the way of the camera. I'm not getting a good angle on it. Let's see, where was that? It's gone. I don't know where it was, but it's definitely pushed out. Okay, so that went down really well. Now let's go ahead and get these ones down really well. Okay, so let's push that one out. And there's a little line right underneath it right there. So we're gonna push this out. And you don't want to leave any air behind when you're pushing this out. You want to make sure that you're getting all the air out, because if you attach, you know, if you stick the film down on the other side of that air pocket, well then obviously you just trapped an air pocket in the film, and then that's harder to get rid of. Okay, so I'm pushing out now to the side with this tool here, just like this, going with the imperfection. Great. And then there's one just a little bit further down here that we heated up just a moment ago. Oh, look at that, I drug a bunch of air out. Okay, got rid of that air. And then let's just back out now. We did show some great close-ups of some fixing some things there. So this one, it's just going to be easier if I can reach in here. So I'm just pushing that down a little bit, getting rid of that silver line. Great. One more time with this squeegee to make sure everything's pushed way out off the side. That looks fantastic. Then we'll close the door a bit, and we'll go ahead and check it over for anything else that's kind of out in the middle. Check this bottom really good. There's a little thing right there and a tiny little dot right here. Now I'm being incredibly picky, and I just want you guys to understand that. You know, I'm going through picking out all these tiny little things, and it's not because there's a ton of imperfections in this, it's just that I'm being extremely particular. I could just pretend, right? I could pretend, oh, that looks fantastic, and move right on. But, and it does look fantastic. Actually, it does look fantastic. But I want to touch up every little dot if I can. I'm just particular with my window film that way. I mean, there's a couple dots down right in here, which nobody would never notice, chances are. And I mean very small dots, like one piece of felt. That's how small we're talking about, or one piece of, you know, one little piece of contamination. Great. Okay. All right, terrific. Well, that was the process of installing window tint on this Mercedes C300. Hopefully you found something helpful in there. We're gonna go ahead and leave it here, and then I'm gonna take care of the other side by myself. That way we shorten up the video. But do let me know down in the comments whether you guys wanna see both sides, or if one side, that's plenty good enough. I appreciate if you made it to this point. And let's see, anything else? Nope, we're good. Okay, well, terrific. I appreciate you taking a look. If you found anything useful or helpful, like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.